football. Hello everybody, this is the Pocket Passer. I'm your host, Randy White. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day. I know I am. It is 12:45 in the morning and I am bringing you this recording instead of sleeping. I have work tomorrow morning because it's that important to me. NFL football is so close. The Chiefs and the Lions kick off, and in today's video, I actually have two. This is a double header. I'm going to record another one right after this one. Right now, I got to give you guys kind of the state of the NFL on some of our big pass rushers as far as some contract situations go. I'm going to tell you who I think will win the Chiefs-Lions NFL debut. This is a very important game for me because I got to start off on the right foot for game predictions, something I don't do tremendously well at. And finally, in pure narcissism fashion, I will be giving you my top 10 teams in the NFL in a segment I call Randy's Ranks. So those will be the three items on the agenda for today's video. Let's get kicked off with Nick Bosa signing a 5-year, $170 million deal with $122.5 million guaranteed. He is now the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. I'm not going to comment on whether he is or isn't overpaid. That's up to you. That's up to your discretion. Obviously, the 49ers felt he was worth it. Nick Bosa felt he was worth it, and so did his agent. And them locking him up is going to help ensure that their pass rush and their front seven stays as formidable as possible. Their team, they're my Super Bowl favorite in the NFC, and if you want to see him get there, better sign your best pass rusher. That's for sure. So they get the deal done with Nick Bosa, and that is a big-time pickup or big-time signing to make sure he stays in place because he was going to hold out, and who knows how the season goes. I have him going in the 1 seed. More on that in another video when I do my final standings projections. But again, they're certainly not the 1 seed without their number one player. So locking him up, good job for the 49ers. Now, Kansas City in a little bit of a situation here. They've got their game coming up in just a short, I don't know, when does it kick off? 8:30? It's 8:20? So, like less than 18 hours from now. Less than 18 hours from when I'm recording this. And they're without their tight end. They're without their best pass rusher. Their 3 technique on the front defensive line. They like to run a 4-3. Chris Jones runs the 3 technique better than anybody else in the NFL. Being absent of him is going to hurt them, especially against a great Lions team. Chris Jones wants to be paid with the likes of Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald being paid $31 million a year, the most of all time by any interior defensive lineman, and the most of all time by any defensive player ever until this deal with Nick Bosa. Chris Jones wants to be on that level. The market kind of sits around $24-25 million for those interior guys. Quinn Williams, I believe, is making $24 million a year, but Chris Jones believes he is valuable enough to be making around $32 million. What I'm hearing is that is what he wants. I don't know if that's entirely true, but Nick Wright, the biggest Chiefs fan in the mainstream media for sports, reported that is around what he wants. He wants to be recognized as the best. Aaron Donald got paid like he was the best. Chris Jones feels like he's better, and he wants to be compensated as such. If you're the Chiefs, I mean, you're the Super Bowl favorites in the NFL, but really you're not the Super Bowl favorites if you don't bring back that man. He is the cornerstone of your defense. The Chiefs don't go to the Super Bowl last year without Chris Jones. They don't win the Super Bowl against the 49ers without Chris Jones back in 2019. He's been a pivotal piece for both Super Bowl victories, and it's going to be tough for them to be able to replicate what's already something almost impossible to replicate. Back-to-back Super Bowls, something that no one's done since New England around 20 years ago. If you want to get that done, or if you want to continue your dynasty in any fashion, locking up one of the best pass rushers in the NFL and the best at his position is really a must. That's the way it is, especially with the lack of talent they have on that defense, with the exception of him and Nick Bolton, who's a terrific linebacker, and Justin Reed at safety, and a couple other pieces. but really it's an unimpressive defense when you take Chris Jones out. It really is, and I think the Lions are going to be able to run all over them. So now segueing to Travis Kelce's injury. He is questionable in just a few hours or less than a day, 18 hours away from kickoff. And he is questionable to play with a hyperextended knee. My expectation is that he won't play. If he does play, I'd imagine it would be very limited snaps. So this Chiefs offense, also limited along with their defense, going up against a exciting Lions team with a lot of potential and a lot of hope surrounding that team. That's not an ideal spot to be in by any stretch of the imagination. So keep your eye out for that. And if Travis Kelce is on your fantasy team, keep an eye open for that, because you might need to make a last-second swap for a bench tight end. Hopefully you've got a good one. I've heard rumblings of Luke Musgrave being good in Green Bay. If you're interested in someone also, the Lions tight end, the Lions young tight end, is it Porta or Laporta? I might be making a fool of myself, but I'm hearing good things about him. Go find yourself another fantasy tight end just to be secure. With that being said, game prediction. I think losing Chris Jones and potentially losing Travis Kelce is going to wear on the Chiefs. Last year they opened up big time in the opening week, but missing your number one weapon, that's very, very important for Kansas City. I don't love the receiving core. Kadarius Toney, yeah, he got cleared, but he's clearly not 100% from what I'm hearing. And I just don't love the receiving core in general. They've got a ton of guys that can spread the ball around, but Travis Kelce is clearly the best of the bunch. Losing him is going to be impactful against an underrated Lions defense with a lot of nice pieces and an offense that has really one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Not having to double team that 3 technique is going to be very, very helpful. I think the Lions get the win 24-20. And let me add, Chiefs are favored -4.5. The line is lowered from 6.5 to 4.5. If you are a betting man or woman, 4.5, I mean, it's not a huge margin, but it's also not incredibly small. I would heavily consider taking the Lions to cover if you are in fact betting on the spread. The over-under is set at around 52.5, I believe. I'm taking the under on that. Like I said, I had the Lions beating the Chiefs 24-20. And now, time for Randy's Ranks, my new segment that I will be doing weekly throughout the NFL season. My top 10 NFL teams. At 10, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, this is a team that's going to improve from last year. I have them doing very well this year as far as overall roster goes. I mean, Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson connection is only going to improve coming into the year. I know Colin Cowherd said that him and Calvin Ridley would have the second best quarterback receiver duo. That's a little bit of a stretch considering Ridley hasn't played in a year and a half, 2 years. But Calvin Ridley will be a nice addition to that Jaguars offense. They should be even more explosive than they were last year. They really put things together in the back half of the year. I expect them to pick up where they left off with Travis Etienne, a talented Evan Ingram who really came into his own and had his best year as a pro last year with the Jaguars. It's just a really nice receiving core with an improved offensive line, a young, developing defense that's going to keep getting better. The Jacksonville Jaguars have a lot of reasons to be very optimistic, so I have them at 10. Number 9, Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Dallas Cowboys, a team I give a hard time. I know a ton of people give them a hard time. They're one of the most hated teams in the NFL. I believe they're voted by a poll the most hated team in the NFL, but that's beside the point. When facts come to facts and you just got to look at reality, they've got a very good roster, a good offensive line. Tony Pollard is a very good running back, a very nice receiving core. CeeDee Lamb is a top-tier wide receiver in the upper top 10 range. Dak Prescott, although I do give him a hard time, I'm definitely hard on him. I don't have him in my top 10. You can't deny he's a solid quarterback at worst, and he can still put up very productive numbers. We've seen him pass for a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns, and last year, a lot of picks. However, you can definitely argue a lot of those interceptions should not have been interceptions. Receivers need to play better. They had a acquisition for Brandon Cooks, who is someone that is slept on. Brandon Cooks does well everywhere he goes. Do not ignore his potential. Defensively, you got the likes of Micah Parsons, a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL, and then you got Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore at corner. It is a nasty roster with all kinds of talent. There's no reason for them not to be good, especially in the regular season. They lose Kellen Moore, who was coaching their top scoring offense the last 2 years, so they could take a hit productivity-wise in that area thanks to losing their offensive coordinator. But expect the Cowboys to do some damage and be a formidable opponent. I have them at 9. Number 8, Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Ravens, a team I'm hard on because they're constantly injured, but the reality is the Ravens are still a very good football team. They've got a new offensive coordinator looking to change their style to a more pass-centric and at least running with your running back-centric offense. Not as much Lamar. As Connor Ives said, Lamar Jackson's running a change of pace instead of a tone setter. I think the Ravens have a very good roster. Mark Andrews, a top tight end in the NFL. Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham Jr. and company going to have to work out there. J.K. Dobbins and Gus the Bus Edwards, a very solid running back tandem. I think they have a lot of potential offensively to be explosive. When Lamar Jackson starts, the Ravens offense averages 28 points per game. That's a lot of points. Look out for the Ravens. They are a very good team with a good defense to back it. Number 7, the Miami Dolphins. They went out, they acquired Vic Fangio at the defensive coordinator position. That is an excellent defensive coordinator they went out and grabbed. Really one of the top people of his position. They also went out and grabbed Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey will miss part of the season, but he will be back late. They are a very good football team. Tua Tagovailoa took jiu-jitsu to help himself learn how to take hits and fall. If he can keep himself healthy, and namely his head healthy, the Miami Dolphins can be very, very good, and they can win the division. If you look at Tua's productivity, when he was kept upright, the Dolphins went 8-2, and he was top 5 in nearly every single passing metric. They're very good when Tua's brain functions. Number 6, the New York Jets. They acquired Aaron Rodgers as well as half of the Packers roster over the offseason. Garrett Wilson's only going to get better. He won Rookie of the Year. Sauce Gardner won Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's only going to get better. They've got a loaded defense, a loaded backfield, loaded receiving options, and really the only question mark is their offensive line, and it's the reason they're frankly not higher on this list. Number 5, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are a very good football team with potential to go all the way to the Super Bowl. Most of these teams, frankly, are Super Bowl contenders in this top 10. I'd say everybody except the Dallas Cowboys and the Jacksonville Jaguars are Super Bowl contenders. I don't pick the Jags to compete just yet in a loaded AFC. So 8-1, if they're healthy, they can win the Super Bowl. The Bengals, they lose their top 2 safeties. If there's a position you want to lose, it's safety. They had 2 excellent safeties that were great at tackling, great in coverage, and if there were 2 safeties you didn't want to lose outside of Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, next it would be those 2 guys, Jesse Bates and Von Bell, both fantastic at what they did, but the most replaceable position in the NFL is likely safety. If they can improve on the offensive line productivity and do a better job of keeping Joe Burrow upright, he's the most sacked quarterback in the NFL the last 2 years. They're deadly. Obviously, probably the best receiving core in the NFL with Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins. Joe Mixon took a pay cut because he believes in the new Cincinnati way with Joe Burrow. He wants to bring a trophy to Cincinnati. There's just a great attitude around the city and around this team. They are a fantastic football team, and with a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, you can't ask for more. Joe Burrow, perfectly capable, if he can stay healthy and upright, of leading this team to a Super Bowl. Cincinnati Bengals at 5. And now at number 4, the Buffalo Bills, a team that lost to Cincinnati in the playoffs. Keep in mind, Micah Hyde out for the year, Von Miller out for the year, Jordan Poyer battling injuries, DeMar Hamlin, adversity that affected the entire team, and all kinds of chaos. Now, this year, Von Miller is going to be coming back at some point in the season. Micah Hyde's healthy. Jordan Poyer's healthy. Tre'Davious White will be there for the full season. This is a much healthier Buffalo Bills team. Josh Allen recovered from his elbow. Damian Harris acquisition at running back to improve their running game. James Cook a year older, progressing from his rookie year. If he could develop into the kind of guy, into the kind of player that his older brother Dalvin Cook has become, he can be deadly, and the Bills offense can be electric. I don't see the Bills offense taking a step back. To me, this is the Bills' year. Number 3, the San Francisco 49ers. There is one reason this team's not at 1, and that is purely and simply because of their quarterback. Brock Purdy's a question mark. Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts are not. The 49ers roster, in my opinion, is far and away the best roster in the NFL. They just locked Nick Bosa up on a 5-year, $170 million deal. As I said earlier, they are a fantastic football team, so well-rounded. Really, the only weak spot is the right side of their offensive line, but their skill position group is just incredible. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. It sounds like I just named the Justice League. The best at what they do. George Kittle is the best at what he does. He's not the best receiving tight end, but he's the second best, and he's also the best blocking tight end in the NFL. He is fantastic when upright. Deebo Samuel, the most versatile wide receiver in the NFL. Incredibly physical, incredibly good at extending plays. You can use him in the backfield. You can use him everywhere. He is so dynamic and incredible. Brandon Ayuk, a route technician, very good, gets better every single year. Christian McCaffrey, best receiving back in the NFL, and still underrated between the tackles. Trent Williams, arguably the best left tackle in the league. Brock Purdy could not be set up better for success. If there was a year the 49ers get it done, it's this year. As well as young talent on the defensive side of the ball. They've got every base covered. I mean, it is truly a loaded roster. And like I said, only reason they're not at 1 is because Brock Purdy is still a question mark, although I think they'll be fine. Number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. Frankly, Kansas City Chiefs, as far as roster goes, they probably fall closer to 4 or 5, maybe lower. But they have the best quarterback in the NFL. They're the best tight end in the NFL. They have the best receiving duo with that quarterback and tight end. No one gels together better than those two. They have a defense that always outperforms its talent. They're always fantastic. If Chris Jones stays and doesn't hold out the entire season, if they can lock him down, they've got him in the interior line. He is currently the best defensive tackle at what he does in the NFL. So the Kansas City Chiefs at 2, Chris Jones not being there hurts them on this rankings. And just the fact that the roster simply isn't as good as who I have at number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. The roster is incredible. They maintained darn near everybody except Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and the right guard that went to Pittsburgh with the name that I sadly cannot pronounce very well. I do apologize for that, but I don't want to butcher it, so I'm not going to say it today. But he is a dog as well. So losing those two guys hurts. But keeping Darius Slay, still having an elite pass rush. Yeah, they lose some guys, but they also bring in a new defensive lineman from Georgia. He's huge. He's powerful. He's going to be very good. They have arguably the best front 7 in the NFL, along with the San Francisco 49ers. They are absolutely loaded, and they are just so good on the offensive side of the ball. Very good offensive line still. Jason Kelce decides not to retire to come back for another year. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Enough said. A.J. Brown, incredible go-ball receiver. There's not really anyone in the NFL right now I'd rather have on a jump ball than A.J. Brown. Man is fantastic. Also great on slants. Devontae Smith may be small, but he's incredibly versatile and dynamic. Great route runner, great athlete, excellent hands. He's got the whole package. They've got a 1-2 punch running back with Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift, acquisitions from the Seahawks and Lions. Those two guys are very injury prone. That's a concern. If they can stay upright, which they have a better chance of doing with a lower carrying load, because if they will be splitting carries between the two of them, then they can be very, very deadly. Dallas Goedert, a quality tight end. There's a reason the Eagles were in the Super Bowl last year. They are a fantastic football team, and if not for a couple mistakes and some unfortunate events. The Eagles very well could have won that Super Bowl. They had the Chiefs on the ropes the entire time. They are a tremendous team, and both these teams that were in the Super Bowl obviously deserving of being in the top 2. So those are my top 10 football teams. Randy's ranks. Remember that. You will be seeing that in video titles throughout this entire season. I'm going to keep this going. Even if you guys hate it, I don't care. I'm going to keep doing it. My ego insists. So, run through it real quick. At 10, the Jaguars. 9, the Cowboys. 8, the Ravens. 7, the Dolphins. 6, Jets. 5, Bengals. 4, Bills. 3, 49ers. 2, Chiefs. And 1, Eagles. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see all of you in the next video.